Hey everyone. So hopefully by reading this basic rule management, this tutorial so far, you've got just a little familiarity with the IPTables command and kind of how it works and how you'd use it. I thought it'd be nice to do an example, and instead of typing this out and making you read and copy commands in, again, I thought maybe like a follow along video would be a little more helpful. So that's what we're going to do right now. As for setup, before we get started, you should have your Raspberry Pi running, set up, wherever that might be. I have mine just somewhere in my house, and I'm just going to SSH into it. I could also use VNC to get into it, just whichever you feel like doing. I'm doing that over Wi-Fi. You can have it set up over Ethernet. As long as you can connect to your Raspberry Pi, you're good. So if you have your Raspberry Pi kind of directly using it, so it's connected to a monitor and you have a mouse and keyboard to your Raspberry Pi, that works fine too. Just make sure you can connect to it with your laptop or some other computer, just so you can test out the firewall rules we're going to be making on the Raspberry Pi. So I think, yeah, that covers everything. We are going to be connecting to the Raspberry Pi with two different shells because we want to be running some sort of like, we're going to open some ports and stuff, but we also want to be messing with our firewall commands. So we're going to connect with multiple shells. If you're using SSH like me, you can use some sort of terminal that gives you multiple tabs. So I'm going to use this one just for like my Windows. I'm going to make a new tab, and this will be SSH1, and I'll make a new one, SSH2. So this shell emulator I'm using gives me tabs, but if you don't have that, like you can just open up your PowerShell and just open up another PowerShell like that. If you're on Mac, I'm pretty sure the default terminal has support for tabs because sometimes Apple does things better than Windows. Maybe most of the times, I don't know. I'm not really decided on which one's better. Anyway, so yeah, you should have tabs. If you're using VNC to get into it, then you can just use the actual tabs built in on the Raspberry Pi terminal. Yeah, that should cover most things. Cool. If you run into problems along the way, then hopefully you can figure them out. So let's get started. Like I said, this will be my first SSH connection. I'm just going to SSH into Pi. This is the IP address that it's at right now in my house. Default password Raspberry. I'm going to go over to my other terminal, do the same thing. Oops, sorry, that was a ping. You can see I was doing this earlier. Okay, there's my command. Okay, cool. So you can see we have two different sessions logged into the same user. That's kind of cool. If you do W, this will show you all the different sessions that are happening right now. So it looks like this is this window. I just did the W command. This is that second window. It's just kind of sitting in bash. So interesting. So let's get started just with our IPTables. Let's view the rules if we have any. Looks like we got permission denied. Got to be root. So we could just prefix everything with sudo, but that gets annoying. So I'm just going to do sudo -s. And I'm going to do this because I'm the only person using this Raspberry Pi, and if anything bad happens, I can take responsibility for it. AKA, don't do this, generally speaking. But like I said, I'm just too lazy. So we're going to do this. Okay, so this is where our rules will go. We don't have any yet. These are our input category, forward, and output. We're going to be generally working with input right now. So before we make a rule, let's look at an example of connections to our Raspberry Pi when we don't have any rules. So over here in my other SSH, I'm going to open up a port and make a little place that people can connect to. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a continual connection. So we're going to do while true, do echo some message. I'm going to send that into something called NetCat. Let's actually open that up real quick. So NC, or the NetCat utility, it's just used to mess around with TCP and UDP. There's a lot of different fun things you can do with it, and it's just kind of there to mess around with stuff, and it might have other uses, but that's what we're going to be using right now. I should open this before starting to write that stuff. So the command to use NetCat, or the one we're going to be using, we're just going to do netcat-l, and we'll open a port. Let's just say I just typed random keys, 9024. You can do whatever you want, it's up to you. And then, so I'm going to run that command and just do done to end this while loop. And I need to get rid of that comment. So this is just bash scripting stuff. Look it up if you'd like. It doesn't take that long to learn, but it isn't necessary for this class, I don't think, so just copy what I have here. Anyway, so we have this thing open up on 9024. Let's see if we can connect to it. So this is my Windows computer, separate thing from my Raspberry Pi. Let's see if I can connect. I'm going to use a command called telnet 168.86. I want to connect to that IP address on that port, which I already forgot what it was, 9024. If you're using a Mac, you actually already have the NetCat utility installed, so just do NC instead of telnet, and it should work the same. And look at that, it just connects me, gives me the message that's being sent over that connection. I could actually write something back if I wanted. And look, it came over. It's kind of fun. So to close out of this connection, I'm going to do Control right square bracket. It gives you the combo right there after you enter it, which is kind of strange. And then just quit. Like I said, if you're on a Mac, do the same thing, but just do NC. And then obviously I don't have it right here. And then just do Control C to quit out of that. But you should have a very similar thing where it connects you in there. So we were able to connect. Like you see, we had this message on our side and we were able to send this message over. So, I mean, that's not really interesting very much, except that it tells us that that connection's open. So let's say if we're the firewall person, we don't really want people opening just random rules. Could be kind of like a security concern. So we're going to close that off. We're going to write a rule for input on protocol TCP on port 9024, and we are going to drop that. Okay, let's check out our rules. Looks like we are dropping TCP traffic coming from anywhere, going to anywhere that's coming out of this port. Cool. Let's test it out again. Looks like we still have it running. We can actually double check to see if that port is open by using the netstat command. This gives us a list of all our ports open. Sometimes you don't really want to look through this, especially if you have a lot of things going on. So we're going to pipe this. We're going to send all this output to another command called grep, which is going to filter this out, and we'll say, bring me back things that have this string in it. And looks like 9024, looks like the NetCat utility is running on that port. So we know it's open, but let's see if we can actually connect to it. I'm going to run that same command with telnet. And look at that, it's not really connecting to it right now. If you remember last time, it connected to it like almost instantly. We can't really exit out of this, so we just have to let it keep trying until it quits. But you can tell that if we look at our rules again, wherever they are, this connection is coming in on TCP 9024, and so our firewall just drops it. And look at that, yep, cannot connect to the host. So very cool. You might think this is probably a bad way to do this, because I could easily just do the same thing and open it up on 925 and then 926 or 9026, whatever. So instead, maybe a better approach if we are doing these rules are to, let's just restart actually with the -F. I'm just going to flush everything. We can just do more of a whitelist approach where we just say, these are the rules we want to have open. So let's do that. So on TCP, I want port 22, which is SSH. We're using that right now, so obviously that's kind of a good one to have open for us. Maybe we have a website, so that would be on port 80. We also want like HTTPS, like the secure website. That's 443. Let's see, maybe we have DNS, that's port 53. I don't know, we can make up another one too. Maybe we have VNC running on this. We could actually check if we have VNC running. I'm connected through SSH, so I'm actually not sure. I'm going to do that same command, except I'm just going to filter out any instances of VNC. And look at that, it looks like VNC is running on port 5900. We have a VNC server right there. So we don't want to kick out anyone who's using that because we want people to come through there. Where's my rule for viewing them? Or not rule. I'm going to add line numbers. Okay, cool. So it looks like we got 5 pretty good rules: SSH, HTTP, HTTPS, DNS on port 53, and VNC. You can tell if it's a commonly used port, then it can usually guess and give it a name. With VNC, VNC can change, so it didn't actually know. So that's pretty good. All this traffic's going to come through, but now the last thing we need to do is to drop all the other traffic that doesn't come through. So the way this works is actually called chain rules. So you can see the word chain right there. It just goes through each rule one by one and checks. So it says, are you coming in on 22? Nope. Are you coming in on 80? Yes. Okay, you can come through. If we had another rule right here at the end that just says, if you didn't meet any of the above requirements or any of the above rules, then we're just going to drop you. So let's do that right now. Let's add to the input TCP, I always forget the P, on protocol TCP, and then we are going to drop you. Okay, so if we're coming down the line, let's say let's try it real quick. So we're trying to connect on 9024, says, nope, that's 22, this is 80, 443, 53, 5900. Looks like 9024 wasn't in there, so I guess you're going to get dropped, which it will if we keep watching this. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Pretty simple, pretty cool. There's one last thing I wanted to show. Oh yeah, okay, looks like that got closed. So let's play around with this just a little more. I'm going to ping our Raspberry Pi and see what happens. Before I do, take a guess. What do you think happened? Do you think it's going to go through, or do you think it's going to get blocked by that rule? It's going through. So if you know why it's going through, that's probably because you are familiar with the protocol that ping uses. Ping actually does not use TCP protocol. It uses another one called ICMP. Oops. I forgot what that stands for. Something message protocol, I think. Internal computer message protocol, maybe. I forgot. Anyway, we're just dropping all TCP connections. But ping uses a different protocol, so it's just coming through. Or if we did another thing that used the UDP protocol, that could come through too. So maybe we want to change this rule to make it a little more robust, a little more secure. Maybe we're super paranoid for some reason. So I'm going to delete that rule number 6. And then I'm going to add that rule back, except I'm going to get rid of this. I'm just going to say any connection that didn't meet the above rules, I'm going to drop you. So you can see now in the protocol column, it says all. So any protocol that wasn't from above, you're going to get dropped. Let's check it out. And looks like our ping is going to time out because it's being blocked. It doesn't meet the requirements from above. So that's pretty cool. Hopefully this maybe made a little more sense to you seeing hands-on. There's a lot more you can do with this. If you check out the man page for IPTables, hit space a couple times. One more time, maybe. Here we go. In the parameter section, you can see all the different ways we can filter our rules. So like we could use the -s, and we could say maybe someone is coming in messing with our website from some IP address, and we just want to block that person. We want other people to come in on port 80, but just not this one IP address. We can specify that, or we can specify only this IP address can come in through SSH. Oops, I went a little too far. There's a couple other interesting things you can read about, mess around with. It's pretty extensive, and it's actually a lot of fun. Maybe not, maybe you didn't think this was fun, I don't know. But I think that's it for now. Looks like, yeah, our pings never got through. Our firewall rules, pretty good, I say, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, that's it for now. If you ran into problems, hopefully you're able to kind of troubleshoot them and figure them out. Yeah, let us know if you have any other questions. Thanks.